Welcome, WTF Fantasy Football. Jim, still playing fantasy football? Congratulations! You've done what you were supposed to do. Now, can you finish it off? Or is it going to be like that night in high school? You were in the back of the car and the girl started touching you and you didn't even get your cream inside your jeans. Is that what's going to happen here, Brian?
Oh, what are we pointing at me for? Oh, geez. How did you know? I thought I only told my therapist that. Tony.
Oh, crazy. Week 16, man. Tell you what, we haven't had a chance to talk about it yet. I feel like I've been talking about it forever, but we haven't had a chance to talk about it yet. How about that crazy week 15? Was that just nuts or not? I mean, just the scores were crazy, horrendous, and I won a semi-final game, 63-55, and change on both sides. And these are two teams that were averaging over 150 points a week.
Yeah, I mean, you look around, there's quarterbacks throwing for 60 yards. There's, teams that maybe drafted Odell Beckham, Keenan Allen, Kareem Hunt, and now teams are rolling out Justin Jackson and, one of these, anybody with the last name Williams seems to be scoring touchdowns in the NFL these weeks. It is crazy. And it's back to guys playing with leather helmets and, we're running the wing tee out here playing football. It's tough. It's almost tough to watch some of these teams because there's just such shitty quarterback play going on in a quarter of the NFL teams right now. It's tough. And it's going to get worse this weekend with Cam Newton going down and Aaron Rodgers is banged up. So good luck, everybody.
Yeah, it's nuts.
I've never that loves the one and done football playoffs. And the 13 weeks out the door that we just had. I've only done this in one league. You take your scoring average that you had for the first 13 weeks and say, Jim, I'm 150 points and I'm playing you and you had 100 points per week. I start out 50-0. I like that. I like to 13 weeks out the window.
Oh, so you're saying take the averages and then take the difference and add that to your score.
Yes.
I don't know. Part of it is the fact of, any team can beat any other team in any given week, even in the playoffs. I mean, that's true NFL style. I kind of like it.
Graham Barfield had a thing on Twitter yesterday that got a lot of talk where he said sort of what you're talking about, Tony, where you should eliminate the head-to-head aspect of fantasy football. And basically it becomes kind of like a rotisserie league where you're just taking points. And it spurred a ton of debate here. I want to see what you guys feel about that. Do you like the head-to-head aspect of it, or would you rather fantasy football just be most points, top 6 teams? Those are the guys that are in.
Personally, I like head-to-head. I especially if you have long-standing leagues and, then you can start to develop actual, camaraderie with the guys you're going against and, have those matchups that you really like to play each year. I kind of like that more than just total points. I like total points to have some kind of bearing on the playoffs. As far as I'm concerned, I always like to have the last team to get into the playoffs is the highest scorer not in the playoffs at that point. That should be the last team in for me. But I like head-to-head matchups, and I play in all of them, but I like having head-to-head games.
Yeah, to me, you can't lose that variance. You can't lose every team has a shot. Like what Tony was saying, where I start up 50-0 on a guy. I don't know if I like that, because you could get to the NFL playoffs and the Chiefs could say, well, we beat everyone's ass. We should start our first playoff game up 21-0 because we had such a great regular season. But it's like, no, everybody starts 0-0. It's just, that's the luck of the draw. You play the game just to win that one game, that one day against that one opponent.
But the difference is that in most leagues, it's a 12-team league.
Mm-hmm.
Some are even 10, and we have 6 teams in the playoffs. So we're putting 50% of the teams in the playoffs, and I think that's the crazy part of it.
You're trying to people are still trying to have fun. It's kind of the way I look at it. Say you throw $100 into your league, which I think is probably the norm for a lot of family leagues out there, friends leagues. So you're paying 16 weeks of fun essentially for $100. That's incredible value. So to get half of those guys in and they get a shot at the title, I mean, it's not like you've invested $10,000 into a league.
That's true. It's true.
Yeah,
I never look at
the one thing that I am noticing is that a lot of the fun, it seems to be going out of it for a lot of people. It really has become so, so worse than that. Everybody's so diehard now, and I keep hearing all these horror stories about what these one guy is doing to another, and everybody seems to be forgetting that this is supposed to be a fun hobby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to bring that into my league with all my buddies here. I got a bunch of fraternity guys and just dudes here in Syracuse that I play with, and I'm the commissioner. And my whole thing is we need to have fun. So I'm all about the message board. I'm sending out crazy videos to these guys, what we're doing for our finals, and the guys don't even know about it yet. So if you're listening, this is something fun you can do. I have every guy in the league send me a small 30-second video clip on their phone, just kind of them, kind of like what we look like here. Just give me 30 seconds, talk smack about the two guys, give me your prediction, something funny, something serious, whatever about the finals, and I'm going to edit those together and put it out on our league YouTube page. So it keeps people involved, keeps them coming back to the page. That's really what it's all about, is how do we keep people involved once their team's out of contention? Because that's the worst thing that can happen to a fantasy league.
Well, one of the things I like in money leagues to do that is to have some way of, each week somebody can win a little something, by having a high score that week or some other random, I played in a league a couple of years ago where each week whoever won, I think it was maybe $10 each week. Somebody had a chance of winning $10 each week off the top. And every week it was something different. Highest scoring running back, highest scoring wide receiver, things like that. That just, even if you were out of the playoffs, you were still involved in that. So you could still get something out of it by playing and putting your best lineups out there.
I like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of leagues to do it, and I think the biggest thing is people, that's the key. You got to make sure you do it right after the season ends, because people are all fresh in mind what happened in the season, what they like, what they didn't like. If you wait till right before the season, people forget, and then they're just rushing to get through the draft, and everything's going to get lost.
I'm a big rule change guy. Being a commissioner, you kind of have to be on top of that. And my guy, I asked guys for rule change proposals 3 weeks ago. And they're like, what are you asking me for? It's now. The season's not even over. You got to get people while they're engaged. Once the season ends, they don't care anymore. They're not coming to the site. They're not invested in responding to your texts or emails. Do it while they're still here. What's a rule out there, guys, that you would love to see changed kind of across fantasy football? Is there something you're just like, I hate this, I want it gone in most leagues?
Yeah. I hate voting on trades. I think when people are involved in trades, and it affects everybody in the league, so they're voting their best interest, not the fundamentals of the trade. I think you have a commissioner, and he gets to rule on the trades. And if the commissioner sucks or the commissioner has bias, vote him out next year.
Yeah.
I don't play in any leagues that vote on trades. I never will, never did. Hate it with a passion. Just for what you're saying. I mean, if another guy in the league doesn't like the trade because it hurts his team, or you traded for a player that he wanted, he's going to vote against it every time. I hate that crap. I won't play in that kind of league. For me, the thing that I want to see change is defensive scoring. If you're going to use defensive team scoring, there's got to be a better way to do it than the luck that is what we use now. Basically turnovers, sacks, and touchdowns are, so hard to predict. Let's make it more predictable. Give it, a more basic setup of, how they're scored, based on maybe yardage given, points allowed that actually mean something. Because most leagues are set up that if you score over 7 points, you don't get nothing. And how often do you score less than 7 points? Except last week when, of course, Dallas and the Giants both got a 0. But it doesn't happen really that often in this league anymore that, a team scores 7 points or less.
I'll give you guys a good example of how I fixed that voting veto issue. We had that in a league, the same league I'm talking about as commissioner. So guys were voting against trades because it was all online. If you're on Yahoo, you just click, oh, veto against trade. It's all anonymous. Nobody knows anything. It's kind of a gutless chicken shit way to do a league. So I said, all right, here's the new rule. Here's how we're going to do it. And everybody agreed to it. Once we post a trade, if you want to veto the trade, you have to post on the message board that you are vetoing the trade, and you have to get more than half the league to veto it. So you need 7 guys to put their name to it. Once we did that and it was out in the open who's vetoing trades, we've never had a trade vetoed since. Every trade goes right through. And the thing I hate is trades should be almost instantaneous. There's nothing worse than these leagues that it's like, okay, it'll be processed in 2 days.
Oh, yeah.
What? What are we talking about? I got a phone right here. I can send 15 trade requests right now. The guy clicks accept. He should be on my team. Like, what are we waiting days for? It should be, at worst, an hour. Boom, guys on your roster.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah.
No
reason to wait anymore.
Yeah, you preach to the choir. It's crazy. I never look and see how long those trades go through. And then when you get in a league where it takes 2 days, I get so pissed off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You've basically eliminated. What if you have a guy who's ruled out on a Saturday night? You know, Adam Schefter and his drunk 2 a.m. tweets of who's in and who's out. What if all of a sudden on a Sunday morning you need to make a trade? You got to find a tight end or something like that. No, you can't do it. It's bullshit.
Yeah, no, totally agree with that. Yeah. As soon as it's agreed upon, it should go through. And the only reason it's turned back is if the commissioner decides that it's collusion and it's outright collusion, then to me, that's the only way. And that really comes down to having a good commissioner. And to me, that's the biggest thing. You need to find leagues that you have a commissioner you can trust. And unfortunately, there's too many out there that you can't. I've been getting horror stories all day about commissioners. You know, one commissioner decided that, he was the commissioner of the league, so it was a money league, and he decided that he didn't have to pay since he was the commissioner.
Oh, you got to make it. Everyone's got to be paid by draft day. If you don't pay, you don't draft. And that money should be set aside, either get a league safe account or something, because I know a ton of guys who they'll tell me after the year, oh, I won this league, but I only got, $40 because, one guy paid. It's like, why are you playing in these leagues? If you don't get paid, I'd be knocking on people's doors.
It's just amazing. We went out today on the frenzy about, guys that are in this one league, and one guy didn't pay. He's going to the championship game, has the best team all year. Looks like he has a good shot to win, but he hasn't paid for the league. So I was pretty adamant. If that's my league, you ain't getting paid.
Absolutely not.
You haven't paid money by now. You ain't getting paid. And then it came out, they're all friends and stuff like that. And I told them, said, look, it comes down to this. If you value your friendship more than you value the league, then pay the guy. But ultimately, what we would do is I would deduct the money for next year's league out of the payout. Yeah. But make him pay it now.
I had a saying in my fraternity years ago: brotherhood starts when the bills are paid. I don't want to see guys out at the bar drinking every night and your $200 fraternity dues per semester aren't paid, so somebody else is paying out of pocket for the kegs and everything this weekend. That's nonsense.
Yeah, totally.
Here's the thing, though, in that scenario, Jim. Would you let the guy be in the championship game, or would you have cut him off before?
Absolutely, I would have cut him off. Actually, as far as I'm concerned, if you haven't paid by week 1, then you don't get a chance to do anything with your lineup until you pay.
Yeah, because I look at it like that. Like, I feel like they almost have to pay him because they let him in the championship. It's gone this far, and I think they made a mistake, and you fix it next year. But he should never have been allowed to get it this far.
I totally agree with that. And that's the problem with sometimes when playing with friends. When you're dealing with friends and stuff, it gets iffy like that. But you got to have set rules in place, and screw it. Even if you're a friend, if you don't follow the rules, then it's all written down here on paper, and you just can't do it. Simple as that. If you try to do it, it's not going to work. But that's what I was saying, Tony. I would never pay the guy. If it was my league, I wouldn't pay. You haven't paid, you ain't getting paid. I'd pay the money out to the second place team and screw it. you don't like it, go find another league somewhere.
For all the people out there that got Week 16, I'm going to try to help you get through it. Of course, the first game of the week is the Kansas City Chiefs and the Seattle Seahawks. I'll tell you what, Kansas City Chiefs continue to go to the running back. It just doesn't matter. It looks like it doesn't matter whose name's on the back of the jersey, Jim. They just got to play.
Hey, look, as far as I'm concerned, Damian Williams looked great last week. Just played an outstanding game. And if I'm Kansas City, I don't care if Ware's healthy. He's not playing this week. Damian Williams playing again because, I mean, not only was he catching everything thrown to him, he was running guys down. He just played hard and with a lot of heart. And, as far as I'm concerned, he showed me so much last week that I would say to Kansas City, I don't think you need to go out and look for another running back next year.
I think it goes to the position again. I think Damian Williams is a decent ball player, but in 5 years of Andy Reid's offense, we've seen 3 different bodies, 4 different bodies, and they all play well there. I think it's just basically a pass catching play, so you can run a little bit there, tackles. I don't think Damian Williams is anything great, but I think that Kansas City running back position under Andy Reid is just always going to prosper.
Yeah, let's look at
same thing in Pittsburgh.
Exactly. It's opportunity, system, scheme, offensive line. It's just put player X in there. They're going to do the job. Spencer Ware was a fullback for the Seahawks for years, and now all of a sudden he's this great fantasy asset. No, it's the system.
So let's talk about this week. Let's say Ware is healthy and ready to play. Who are you playing? If you're Kansas City, you playing Ware because he was the starter before the injury, or are you playing Williams, who looked so much more explosive last week?
I have this conundrum because I'm in a dynasty championship. We picked up Ware off the wire, and he's on our bench, so we can flex him if we wanted to. To be honest, I'm scared to death. I don't want a guy who's going to go out there and play a quarter and get shut down or re-aggravate an injury, or they're limiting snaps and all that. You can't play with that this week. You need to go with the sure thing. Even to me, if the ceiling isn't as high, you need someone who's going to get guaranteed touches. And to me, Spencer Ware does not have that this week.
I'll tell you what, if I get a report healthy, I play them both. I think that both are playable. I think when we saw the offenses last week, we got the weather being bad now. We got quarterbacks being bad. I don't think there's 25 great running backs to get out there. I'll be playing both of them.
I'm playing Chris Carson and Mike Davis in a league. I'm flexing him over Kenyon Drake. I can't Drake.
You can't. You almost have to at this point after last week. I mean, everybody assumed that Drake wasn't getting any touches because of the injury, and then Gaze comes right out and says, "Well, actually, it had nothing to do with the injury." Mm-hmm. And Ballage goes out and gets all his playing time and has a good game. And now all of a sudden in Week 16, you have to consider whether or not Ballage is a startable player for you in Week 16, your championship. I can't remember a season where it was so convoluted the way it is this year, with all these stars being injured and all these guys going on IR. It just seems like there's so many more no-name guys being on starting rosters right now at this time of the season than I can ever remember in a long period.
Yeah, it shows how much you need to pay attention and work the waiver wire. The guys in your league who are asleep at the wheel and they just kind of go, I'm good. I got a good roster this week. If you're not adding these, speculative running backs, you're screwed.
Well, not even just running backs in a lot of positions. I mean, all of a sudden, Dante Pettis is a guy you want to have in your starting lineup, as is Robert Foster. 2 guys that have been playing very well lately. I mean, it's so hard to trust rookie wide receivers when it comes to big games. It really is for me. I have such a huge bias on that. But both of these kids are playing good football right now. How do you trust them in Week 16?
What's crazy for me is when you look at the situation involving the Pro Bowl, and I don't get all fired up about it, right? But the funniest part is there were a lot of snubs and there's a lot of ways there. But I thought the most interesting thing was all the people that thought Russell Wilson should be there. And I'm like, I don't see it. Russell Wilson actually took a step back this year. Not in poor play, but the team just didn't ride his back as much this year.
Right, because they had that ground game going really well and, one of the best running games in the league. So he doesn't really have to do much. I get that. the fact of the matter that both Rodgers and Brady are in there just goes to show you how stupid the whole thing is. I can't stand it. It's just a popularity contest. Means absolutely nothing. I talking to people today, and oh yeah, but Rodgers still, 26 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. And I turned around and said, well, how about this? Pat Mahomes has 2 fewer touchdowns than Brady and Rodgers combined.
Yeah. But here's the thing I go with, Jim, is that what do you do when you go and put the Pro Bowl in? Is it supposed to be for this year? Is it supposed to be for their career? Like, there's nothing definitive on how you vote for this thing.
I don't even care. I mean, none of those guys are going to play anyways. Half the guys, if they go to the playoffs, they're not going to show up. It doesn't matter.
Even if they don't go to the playoffs. Ooh, I tweaked my pinky finger. I can't play.
But they'll be there.
I don't think Tom Brady's ever played.
Yeah. It was one thing when it was in Hawaii. A lot of people wanted to go just so they can get a free trip to Hawaii. Now that they're playing in the States, these guys are saying, "Oh man, that's a pain."
Where is it? Like Orlando or something?
I don't even remember this year.
Orlando.
Yeah.
Oh, great. It's like
$45 can get you into that game
to play free safety.
I hate the Pro Bowl. I've always hated the Pro Bowl. It's just nonsense, and especially the last few years, it's just gotten so much worse because you end up getting 3rd and 4th stringers playing in the freaking Pro Bowl because they're the only guys that'll say yes.
Nick Mullins will be playing in the Pro Bowl. Watch.
Yeah.
I love it. Redskins and the Titans. I got to ask you, people. I like this Derrick Henry situation is amazing to me. So it's not amazing what he's done because the kid's obviously talented. They got a decent offensive line. And I don't know why he didn't play more early in the season. But, Jim, the reaction of the fantasy community, we're saying anyone that put Derrick Henry in their lineup in Week 14 is a moron and the luckiest person in the world. I was like, how do you say that? There ain't 24 good running backs. I could see someone, especially on a Thursday night game, putting Derrick Henry in the game there. But the downfall is amazing to me, and all the sore losers in fantasy football over Derrick Henry.
Well, look, if you had choices, you weren't going with him. The only reason you were starting Derrick Henry in Week 14 was because you had to. With all the injuries, you really didn't have anybody else. So you had to throw him out there. And I say this as one who had to. In 2 leagues, had to throw him out there. Wasn't like I said, I think Henry's going to have a great game this week after doing nothing all freaking season. But I didn't have a choice. I had to throw him out there. He went nuts. Last week, he goes nuts again. So now you get to Week 16. Now, this is a guy who didn't do anything through the first 13 weeks of the freaking season. You're getting into your championship playoffs. He's hot as hell. But can you still trust him?
He's got 50 carries for 408 yards over the past 2 games. That's 8.2 yards a carry.
I get it. I get it. I do. I really get it. But, last week was against the Giants, and we know that their rush defense has just evaporated. The week before that was against Jacksonville, which was totally unexpected. I get all that. But, and at this point, I'm going to roll him out there again, but man, I don't really feel great about it.
I'll tell you what I would. Derrick Henry is going to be the key to the 2018 Fantasy Super Bowl champions.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because Derrick Henry's actually from the next town over in Jacksonville, Yulee. And so it was against this hometown team that he ran that game up, and it was wild. And it's funny. And how many people, I had people like, oh, what idiot would know Derrick Henry, and he had the game of his life. And I'm like, the dude won the Heisman.
Yeah, no. Yeah, he was a great running back in the day, but he just never seemed to get it going with Tennessee. Even last year, just wasn't there. That's why they brought in Deion Lewis. Everybody expected Deion Lewis to be that guy. And, he's had a couple of good games, but he hasn't really done much else.
I got a buddy of mine. Let me ask you guys this question. He said biggest it's his finals of his big money league. He can start 3 of these players: Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, Marlon Mack, or Derrick Henry sitting on his bench. So now he's perplexed. He's like, how do I bench Mac, Chubb, or Barkley for Henry?
Mac would be out for me.
Mm-hmm.
Mac had a great game last week, and a lot of that was due to the fact that they got their starting center back, and the numbers with him at center as opposed to when he was out are big. You're talking about almost a 5-yard per carry average while he's in there, and under 3 while he was out. So he came back last week, and we saw Mac go back out to have a great game.
And they're at home. They're against the Giants. Yep. I mean, I think he could go off again.
Yep.
All good matchups. You look at that. The Bengals. One of them play the Bengals, who are all beat up. The Bengals. Chubb plays the Bengals in that one, so they're all beat up.
I think Barkley could have the worst matchup playing the Colts.
Yeah. If you put Saquon Barkley on at this time of year, you might as well call Salman Rushdie.
You got balls of steel if you're doing that, man.
Yeah, I mean it's a tough deal. There's no doubt about it. That's man. He's one of the few guys that have that kind of. That's actually a luxury at this time of year, especially this year, to have that many good running backs that you can use. There's no way I sit Barkley, and I don't think I could sit freaking Henry with the way he's running right now. I just don't think I could.
Yeah, I definitely couldn't. I would definitely mark Mac there. And yeah, you know what? That's a good problem to have, I think, any way you look at it.
What do you guys I just want to ask, what do you guys feel about in weeks like this, teams that are out of it, they have nothing to play for, might be in evaluation mode, you could start seeing backup quarterbacks in the second half. Are you nervous to play guys? I mean, you look at a team like the Giants. They could sit Eli in the second half. Who knows if Beckham's going to play? They're playing against a much superior opponent who could blow them out. I mean, there's a lot of scary situations out there.
So you're worried that Barkley won't play in the second half or something?
Well, I'm just saying there's a lot of players like that in general. Just teams that you're going against bad teams. And what if they rest guys? Look at what they did with the Jaguars this past week. All of a sudden, Fournette sits in the second half, like for no apparent reason.
I think he sat. Well, I thought he sucked. That's why I thought he sat.
Well, they did say that his foot was really acting up again, and he may even be iffy this week to even play. So I don't know. Who knows if that's the truth or not? We don't know anymore.
This every year because we run out of shit to talk about. Week 15 was 16,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't ever remember it costing anyone a playoff in any fantasy football league. Because I think we would remember it as like, oh, the second half, they sat out Kurt Warner. I don't ever remember it happening.
Most of them, I think, because they're guys on bad teams, so you're not starting. Nobody's starting Eli Manning, anyways. But yeah, I worry about Aaron Rodgers. He's got a little groin issue. They're done. They're playing against the Jets, who have nothing to play for. Boy, I don't know.
Why would you even trot Aaron Rodgers back out there at this point for Green Bay?
That's the question.
Philbin's trying to get the job full time.
Mm-hmm.
Philbin ain't going to get that job full time. Philbin sucks.
I watched that Hard Knocks when he was the head coach of Miami, and I was like, this guy is way over his head. And it showed there, and I can't even believe that he's in this position again.
Yeah, I don't think much of Philbin at all. I definitely don't think he's going to be back next year, no matter what he does. And I love his quote. Roger, these guys get paid to play football. I expect them to be on the field. You get paid to coach. We don't expect you to coach.
And that's the thing is these guys have big time contracts. And like I can't go out here and get hurt for this idiot. He's not going to be here 6 months from now. These guys know it. They're talking. They see the writing on the wall. They're not stupid.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting. Another game interesting. Ravens and Chargers this week. Now, I watched this. This is the dumbest thing I have seen today. I watched someone try to explain how Lamar Jackson makes the Ravens defense better because he can't throw the ball and they run it more and the clock goes, so they're not on the field more. Jim, is that the quarterback you want? Is the guy that makes your defense better?
Well, it doesn't hurt, but no, I don't want Lamar Jackson. he's shown he needs a lot of work in his passing game to really elevate himself up to that role. We know he can run, sure, but he needs so much work in that passing game. I'm not ready to buy into that yet. I thought he was a project when he was drafted. I still think he's a project. I don't think he's anywhere near ready to be an NFL quarterback. But when you compare him to a guy like Joe Flacco, why not?
And
I'll tell you what, I won some money in DFS last week, and I owed it all to Mike Williams in his 3 touchdowns last week. Saw Keenan Allen get hurt with the shoulder. Brian, who do you think in San Diego? What are we looking at running back? What are we looking at wide receiver? Who are you scared to play? Who are you playing?
Well, I mean, it looks like Gordon's back. He's playing. That's the word on the street now, which
but he's not 100%.
Yeah, which surprises me that they're going to get him out there. I mean, this is a team with legit Super Bowl aspirations. I wouldn't play him until he's 1,000% ready to go. Justin Jackson is fine. And the Williams boys out there, Tyrell and Mike, they're both very good receivers. Tyrell Williams is an unrestricted free agent. He's going to go somewhere and be like the number 2 in like Indianapolis next year and be a really productive player for fantasy when he can just kind of stand on his own. They're both good players. I like everybody in San Diego. Although, I mean, it's a tough matchup, but they're not afraid to throw the football. That's for sure.
You guys know I love Mike Williams. I've always liked Mike Williams. Glad to finally see him get his real shot last week, and what a game he put up. And fortunately for me, in that same league, I had to run out Derrick Henry. I had to run out Mike Williams.
Oh my goodness.
Well, yeah, I also had Damian Williams on that team, so that was a really good week for me in that league. Mike, it wasn't. It was more because I was betting on upside that he would score. And I wasn't thinking 3 times. I would have taken 1 and been happy. But 3 times, that was definitely a nice little piece on the cake.
Then you have the Giants and the Colts, and we all know Saquon Barkley, Odell Beckham Jr. didn't play last week, but neither Shepard delivered here. Jim, offensively from the Giants, is it Barkley and nothing else?
Well, I like the fact that they got Evan Ingram involved again last week. It looks like he's finally starting to get a little bit healthy. So I think he's going to be in play again. He when he's fully healthy, he is definitely a great tight end. Really is someone who can exploit the matchups, get down the field, get down the seam in a hurry. So I like him when he's fully healthy. I think he's going to be fully involved in this one. I bet we don't see Odell Beckham again in this game. I don't like Odell. I'm done with the Odell infatuation. I loved him when he first came in. I'm just getting tired of his prima donna ways.
What's your thoughts, Brian, on the Colts situation at running back? Can people put Mack and Himes in their lineups this week?
I wouldn't want to play Naheem Hines because I don't think they're necessarily going to have to throw the ball a ton. That's kind of where he excels. But Marlon Mack, boy, he has been a great player. If you had him, he had his career high in rushing last week. He always seems to find his way into the end zone. Andrew Luck, I think, is a legit MVP candidate. So they're firing on all cylinders. They look really good, especially last week, crushing the Cowboys. So I'd play every single guy with a horseshoe on his helmet this week if I had him.
Every single guy.
How many guys you got? It's T.Y., it's Mac, and Ebron.
What about Zach Pascal?
Who's that guy with B.W. Webb is going to be guarding him in the slot? Let's go. Fire him up.
Jaguars and Dolphins in a game of a battle of Florida as they go at it. This one's going to be crazy. Leonard Fournette, we all know the toe situation. I don't know physically how this Jaguars team is going to score any points against anyone. The offensive line's beat up. The running back's beat up. The quarterback can't play. The wide receivers don't have any skill position. Anything here in the Jaguars offense that you can get excited about? Kick is good, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, he may get a few field goal opportunities. I'm with you. There's nothing I really like there. Kessler isn't a terrible quarterback. He has some nice throws once in a while. He's just very inconsistent. He goes out and he throws a zipper to the fucking outside and hits a guy on a nice tight route. and then the very next play, he's got a guy wide open over the middle, and he throws it 2 feet behind him. So I don't know. I don't know if there's anybody there I would want to invest in Week 16 at all. And on the other side of the ball, we were talking about him earlier. Ballage may end up being the main running back for Miami, but how much you want to trust him against Jacksonville in Week 16?
I'll tell you.
Go ahead.
The problem with Cody Kessler, you mentioned it. He looks good on some throws, but he's at best Chad Pennington. He's never going to throw the ball more than 20 yards down the field.
Is the sneakiest play in this whole game the Dolphin defense? I mean, especially in DFS, they're not going to cost you a nickel.
I'll tell you what. Last week I made money using whoever Arizona play Atlanta, right? 22 fantasy points. I mean, that was a huge number. I think you're right. I think it's actually a good number, but Miami's going to have to score and then put Jacksonville throwing the ball 40 times there. And I kind of worry about Miami putting up enough of a number against the Jacksonville defense.
Yeah, and see, that goes back to my point about, defensive scoring is just so uneven with the luck factor as opposed to actual skill that I just can't stand it. That's why there's so much volatility in the position from year to year. And I get so crazy when every year somebody invests, a 7th or 8th round pick in a draft on a defense based on what they did last year. The numbers of how these defenses do from year to year is amazing. Half of the top 10 won't even be in the top 20 next year. There's only been one team in the last 3 years that's even been in the top 10 consistently, and that was Philadelphia. And they're not doing anything.
Sucks.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Defensive scoring is ludicrous, and anybody who wastes an early pick on a defense is just being an idiot.
Jim's not sugarcoating anything there, Brian.
I'm really not. I hate that with a passion. I really do. I just think that's the worst play in fantasy football is drafting a defense early. Everybody went out and spent that early draft pick on Jacksonville this year. That they were the big pick early on. Everybody wanted Jacksonville. And look at them. They've been a middle of the road fantasy defense all year.
I will raise my hand. I was one of those assholes. I did it in this one league, my home league. I go, you know what? I'm going to get cute here in like the 8th round. I'm going to take the Jags, 8th or 9th. I'm going to set it and forget it, and they're going to dominate. And it led to me being in the consolation bracket because it was just a stupid move. So, lesson learned. And it can be just so tantalizing. You look at all the talent and everything, but, the guy who took the Bears in the 16th round is, sitting pretty right now playing for a big gold belt.
Look, literally go back and look at defensive scoring over the last couple of years and the teams that finished in the top 12 and how consistent they've been from year to year, and you'll be amazed how bad it is. They just don't do it. If they have a great year one year, they almost are never back the next year to do that same thing. It just doesn't work.
Falcons and Panthers up next. I got to ask you, if you have Christian McCaffrey, of course, people are going to play him. Jim, but I guess for the DFS people out there, how much no Cam Newton's going to hurt Christian McCaffrey? I see it like this. I see that he gets more runs from the line of scrimmage, but where McCaffrey makes his best hay is in the passing game, and I think it's going to hurt him a little.
Oh, I think it's going to hurt him more than a little. Look, Atlanta's defense is playing really good against the run right now. Over the last 5 weeks, they've been number 2 against the run. Over on the season now, their numbers are down to number 6 against the run. Their run defense is really starting to shore up. The fact of the matter is everybody expects, rookie quarterbacks or young quarterbacks or backup quarterbacks to come in and always want to check down to the running backs. And that's actually not the case. That is a talent that needs to be learned. Pat Mahomes was saying early in the year, I didn't ever get down to that check down to my running back because I couldn't work through my progressions fast enough. That's something you got to get to. And it took him a little while. And we saw that with Hunt in the first few weeks. He wasn't catching any balls. And then all of a sudden, Mahomes started to get into that rhythm. He could go through his progressions and then check down when he had to. And all of a sudden, we see Hunt start to catch the ball. It's not an automatic thing that, a young quarterback is going to come in and say, "Oh, I want to dump it off to my running back every time." It doesn't work that way.
I don't know, though, that these aren't plays where McCaffrey is the number one option, though, because Norv Turner's drawing this up. He knows who the best player on the field is, and it's McCaffrey. So he might be the number one read on that play. Is like, all right, we're going to run this wheel route, and it's McCaffrey's play. And if it's not there to him, then we're going to somebody else. And Atlanta has been horrendous against running backs coming out of the backfield all season long. So I think he's got a shot, especially if it's got to be schemed to McCaffrey. If they can say, okay, kid, go out here. This is what the play is. It's going to Christian. Throw him the ball. I think then he's got a good shot. And God, I hope so.
Yeah, no, that's a totally different aspect, right? When he is the best player on the field, you're going to, the plays are going to be to him. He's going to be the first read as opposed to being the third or fourth. So that, that's the same thing with Barkley. We see a lot of that now is that he's the first read. Eli's dropping back. He's not looking at other guys and then coming back to Barkley. He's coming back and seeing where Barkley is and dropping it off to him. So, it could very well be that same way with Taylor Heineke. We just don't know enough about Heineke and what his predilections are of where he's going to go with the ball.
On the Falcons side of things, Tevin Coleman had a lot of bang for your buck last week. You go against the Panthers defense that's had problems with the passing game. Do we see Matty Ryan and Julio Jones and company light it up this week?
Yeah, I mean, Matt Ryan's been playing really well the last 5 games, and Julio's on, what is he on pace for 2,000 yards? Tevin Coleman at 11 for 145 last week. So it's kind of too little too late for Atlanta, but they're clicking on all cylinders. You can't be afraid to put any of those guys in your lineup this week.
Except Calvin Ridley.
No. Yeah, that guy. Everybody thought after the first few weeks, like, oh, we got this big stud here, and Ridley's scoring all these touchdowns. It's like, no, it's luck because everyone's double covering Julio, and Sarkisian's a moron. He doesn't know what to do in the red zone.
Well, they schemed Ridley open for a lot of those touchdowns, and 6 touchdowns in 3 weeks would get anybody excited. But then once defenses realized what that scheme was to Ridley, they shut his ass down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Calvin Ridley is going to be a good player in this league.
No, I agree.
I just think that right now that, you should have been able to see it early with all those touchdowns they were getting, that couldn't last forever. And I think he's going to be a fine player, though, in this league. And those two guys might make some hay together for some time.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Ridley is going to be good. I just thought that everybody was just going way over the top with him at the time, and now we're seeing why. Rookie wide receivers, very hard to trust. It's just very, very inconsistently do we ever see a rookie wide receiver that's a great play from week to week.
Bengals and the Browns go at it this week. Of course, the Bengals all beat up. Joe Mixon looked good last week. I played Mixon and Boyd in DFS. Thank God Boyd got in the end zone, and Mixon, of course, had a big game. Jim, are those the only two guys you see playing in the Cincinnati uniform?
Well, actually, Boyd may not even be playing. We're not hearing great things about him so far. I know he didn't practice yet this week, and they're doubtful that he may not even practice through Friday. So definitely have to keep your eyes open on that one. But if he plays, he's a viable starter just because of, the amount of opportunity he should get. Cleveland, pass defenses has been backsliding of late. So that, it's definitely in play if he gets on the field. But, man, I don't know if he's one of those guys. He's iffy at best when fully healthy. If he's not fully healthy, he's got to be a lot iffier than that.
Tony, I'll tell you what I see here. You're a DFS guy. The chalk play is going to be Baker Mayfield this week. Guy went 258 and 4 touchdowns the last time these guys played. He was talking shit after the game about Hugh Jackson. Hugh Jackson is going to scheme this game like it's the Super Bowl. And everyone's going to play Mayfield thinking he's going to go, balls to the wall again. and the guy's going to throw for $175 and no touchdowns. It happens all the time. When it's so good and it's set on a platter, it never comes through. And I'm telling you, that's the guy. That's the play this week that fails.
Well, let me ask you guys.
What was that?
So you're saying bench Mayfield even?
I'm just saying he's going to be that chalk play everyone thinks is going to go off for 400 yards and 28 touchdowns, and I just see him coming up small because of the way it ended last time. If the Bengals have any pride at all, I think they come out and they really try to get after this kid. And I can just see him trying to do a little too much because he knows the eyes of the league are on him and what are you going to do with a Hugh Jackson thing again, and he maybe presses a little bit and. I just see him coming up small this week. That's my call.
Let me ask you a question real quick, both you guys. If Boyd didn't play, who's the Bengals wide receiver that steps up? John Ross or someone else?
Oh, none of the above.
CJ Uzomah.
Erickson? Nah, none of the above. There's nobody, none of the others I would even think about, contemplate, even close, especially with Driscoll in there to just come off the bench and all of a sudden be in play. I can't see that.
Cardinals and Rams this week. For all you people out there, we talked about this earlier. The Rams, right? They've been getting lit up defensively. I would play the Rams defense this week if they're on your waiver wire. I would even pick them up. This Arizona offense looks so bad. But, Jim, are you one of these guys that are concerned that Todd Gurley wouldn't play a whole game in this one?
No, these guys are still fighting for everything at this point. They're still fighting. They want to get that home field advantage if they can. New Orleans, all they got to do is win, and they get home field advantage throughout the playoffs. But the Rams can't count on, that. They can't worry about that unless, well, actually, wait. No, they both play at 4 o'clock. So, no, the Rams need this game. They need to stay in that hunt and go for it. So I don't expect anybody to be sitting for the Rams at all. They got to come out, especially after the last few games of how poorly this offense has been playing. And now, all the talk out there, the narrative is that, defenses have finally started to figure out this offense and they're shutting them down. Rams can't have that. They got to go into Arizona, who is a good defense, and they just got to blow them up. They got to light them up.
Signing CJ Anderson this week isn't a good sign, though, for Todd Gurley. When teams usually do that, it indicates that there's something amiss. And to sign a veteran like that when you already have Kelly and the other kid, it's like, why are you adding
Well, that's exactly
back?
The point, though. Kelly and the other kid.
So, but if Gurley's not banged up and at risk of playing, why would you sign him?
Well, he is banged up. He's hurting. There's no doubt about it. He's hurting. I don't think he practiced today. But as of right now, they expect him to play. And, if he plays, I'm playing him. I think they brought, Anderson was just sitting out there and they said, okay, well, just in case, let's bring him on board. And if Gurley has a setback, which is always possible, if that goes even further, then you have an issue. Then you want to get somebody who has some, experience in this league and get out there and be on the field. And that's why I think they went out and got Anderson. As of right now, it looks like Gurley's going to play, and I'm not really going to be worried about him. But there is a chance that in practice he could hurt himself even worse and miss the game entirely.
Goff has been so bad. When you talk about teams figuring them out, they're just getting so much pressure up the middle. There's a lot of twists and stunts from the defensive line that are getting in his face and really making life miserable for him. And the Chicago Bears did it. The Eagles did it last week. He just looks shook out there. Like he's just throwing a ball away. He looks jittery, like seeing ghosts. They got to calm this kid down. I don't know what they got to do, but and I also think the Rams need to take a few more deep shots. Everything is too much around the line of scrimmage. Everything is short and underneath. You got Brandon Cooks. Get the freaking ball down the field to this guy and make the defense respect you a little bit.
Well, that's the problem, though. They got to get this offensive line playing better. They started out the year great, but they've been playing lousy lately, and it's not going to get any better this week against Arizona, who's definitely going to throw all those same stunts at them. They need to accomplish that. And look, we're talking about Gurley being, unsettled back there. Look, this is how you get to any good quarterback. You give him pressure up the middle, and you're going to be in his face all game. You're going to get them rattled. That's how the Giants beat New England in the Super Bowl twice is they got in Brady's face and they got him rattled. He was always back there shuffling around, not knowing exactly where he was going to go with the ball because he didn't know how much time he had. That's the key to shutting down that kind of offense. There's no doubt about it. Get the quarterback rattled early and you can get him on his heels all game long. That was the thing that, made the biggest impression on me last week with Goff, is that he was throwing everything off his back foot. He wasn't setting himself up at all. He was backing up and throwing, in an awkward style. So he wasn't even allowing himself to really set. And they need to figure that out. Whatever they need to do, they need to get extra help in there, whatever they need to do, but they need to get him settled. I agree with that, but they need to get this offensive line, a little more solid again.
Bears and 49ers. Brian, where do you go for 49ers with wide receivers?
Dante Pettis starts and ends with him. What a great player. They traded up into the second round to get this kid. He's a really good route runner, and he's showing it. He's going to be probably their number one for years to come. Once Jimmy G comes back next year, I think they could add, they still have Goodwin. Garcon will probably move on. They'll add someone else. And you've got a really nice nucleus out there. But I like Dante Pettis a lot. I have him in some lineups. I've been starting him for a month.
Yeah, Pettis has been playing great ball. Look, when you get a good young slot receiver like that who does run good routes, I mean, it's definitely a bonus for quarterbacks, and Mullins definitely likes him. So I agree with you. Tough matchup this week against Chicago. So it's going to be hard, but
they lost their slot corner though, didn't they?
They did lose their slot corner. So that should, I agree. That I was going to get there. But it's still, a concern when you have Chicago because not only, okay, sure, they're down the slot corner, but you have to worry about how much pressure they get on Mullen and how much he can hold up to that pressure. And, we just don't know that yet.
Jim, what's your comfort level on Jordan Howard?
Ooh, between a 0 and a 10 comfort level, 4. Look, they're getting him more involved because they have to. It's getting, into that deep, cold weather territory. They're getting ready for the playoffs. They need to have a guy that can play in that kind of environment, that can run the clock out when they need him to. And so they're getting him more involved. He's getting the job done to an extent. And, I don't see that changing this week against San Fran. Not the greatest matchup in the world. They've been playing a little better, but, he's getting more touches now because they need to have somebody who can run out the clock. Let's face it, that's not Tariq Cohen's game. He's a pass-catching back, and he's great at it, but he's not somebody who can grind the clock down and, put the other guy back on the heels. They need to get Howard established doing that, and that's what we've been seeing more of lately.
And then you have the Pittsburgh Steelers, New Orleans Saints. I'll tell you what, we saw Eli Rogers get his first action this week. We saw J.J. Schuster not play that well there. We have the running back situation in Pittsburgh up there. Brian, what's your comfort level with the Steelers going against a very good Saints defense?
The Saints defense, probably the last 6-7 weeks, has been one of the best in football, especially the best in fantasy. Boy, if you have Connors or Jalen Samuels, you've got to be watching these practice reports every day. I know Connor, I think he came out today and he said it's tough to come back. These high ankle sprains are tricky. That gives me pause that maybe he's not at 100%. If both of them are active, boy, I don't know what to do. I think I still might lean Samuels because they like to lean on a guy so hard. I can see a re-aggravation for Connor, but what do you guys think? If they're both active playing, where do you go?
If it's me, I got to go Connor. If he's on the field and playing, I got to go with the guy.
I totally agree.
I don't like it because you're right. I don't like when a player says, that he doesn't feel like he's ready yet. And that's kind of what Connor said. Mm-hmm. And that always bothers me. But if he's on the field and playing, I mean, even if he loses half the game, he could still get you enough fantasy points to be relevant.
Very, very sad game on the week. It don't get any sadder than this. We got the Oakland Raiders soon to be moving to LA in the Denver Broncos Jim, is there anyone here fantasy worthy in this contest?
I'm sorry, Tony. I was reading the chat. Which game are you talking about?
The Raiders and the Broncos.
Raiders and Broncos. Ah, man. Look, Tim Patrick's been playing pretty decent. Deshaun Hamilton's been playing pretty decent. Cortland Sutton had a decent week last week. Do I really want these guys in my lineup in week 16 against a pretty good Oakland defense? Probably not. But just trying to think all the way across the board. Might take a shot. Probably Jared Cook, but Denver's pretty good against tight ends. But I mean, he's been probably their biggest, most consistent player.
I'll tell you what, that's Jared Cook. Brian, anyone else's championship matchup in this game?
Well, I love Deshaun Hamilton. I'm just looking up some stats here on Jordy Nelson. The past 3 games, the guy's got 230 yards. He's got over 14 points 2 of the last 3.
Yeah,
but I can't trust Jordy Nelson.
And that's what I keep coming back to.
I would trust Deshaun Hamilton more than I trust Jordy Nelson.
Really?
Yeah. Talent, scheme. I trust the quarterback more.
Even though Oakland's defense is better against wide receivers than Denver's is this year?
Yeah, I think he's their one. I think they're just going to feed him enough. He's going to get 7-8 targets, and if he turns that into 5 for 70, you'll live with it as your wide receiver 3 or your flex.
I like Deshaun Hamilton. I was talking about him a few weeks ago when everybody was ranting about Sutton. Sutton is a boomer bust, big play guy who doesn't really run great routes, and I was worried about him. I think Hamilton, while not the speedster or doesn't really have a lot of elite traits, is a good, solid, wide receiver that runs good routes. And, I like the fact that I thought he'd be a boon in this offense in the slot once Sanders went down. So I'm glad to see that is coming to fruition. But man, to say that you like you like Deshaun Hamilton, a rookie, over Jordy Nelson, that's gutsy.
He's got, since the Sanders went down, he's got 21 targets, 14 for 93 and a touchdown, 11 PPR points in that span. And you got to look at the Raiders, and they're giving up, I think the number's like they've 8 touchdowns in the last 5 games to wide receivers. So just one of these guys is going to get in the end zone. It's going to be a Cortland Sutton week. Let's admit it's going to be Cortland Sutton goes off for like $160 on 4 catches and scores 2 touchdowns. And we're going to go like, I told you I should have played him. And then it'll boost him up next year. And he's like a 3rd round pick.
Oh God, I hope. I like when people do that. I love when people take a player like that early in the draft, because it just means somebody else I like is still available to me.
Yeah. So. If you go over to fightingchancefantasy.com, where Jim and I both hang out and write some articles, you're going to see this week in our roundtable, we're going to be talking about players who next year we think are going to, be elite and where they get drafted and things like that. So,
crap, I totally forgot about the roundtable. Crap.
There you go. See, just reminding you. So check that out later this week over at Fighting Chance Fantasy.
Oh, I got to write that in the morning. Otherwise it's going to get pushed to the wayside again. I've been so freaking busy. It's killing me. It's bad enough I had to hand off the waiver wire article just because I didn't have time to get it done in time. Now the roundtable is being affected too.
That's all right. It's tough. It's a long season, my friend. And I mean, you talk about fatigue on the players, and they play, and this is going to sound really stupid because they're out there getting their brains beat in. There's a fantasy fatigue that sets in too for players, for analysts, people covering it day in and day out. You get to this point in the season, you're kind of just like, holy smokes, like you almost just want it to end.
Well, I'll tell you the truth. I go through that every year. Not only so much for this, it's just that I love to answer people's questions. I love to be that guy everybody comes to, and who do you like? I love that. But there are times that it just gets overwhelming. Now, like the frenzy chats, it's like nonstop. It's like bam, 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 one right after the freaking other. And it's just like, give me a break, people. Let me breathe for a minute. It's just nonstop, and sometimes that is definitely gets daunting after a while. I mean, no matter how much you love to do it, when you just get peppered like that, left and right,
Yeah.
man, you're reeling in the corner. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, no question. That's tough. That's a skill to sit there and answer people's questions for literally because I've had a few people ask me questions. It's not a team you care about, right? So you're just trying to give them your best educated guess when there could be anybody out there just be like, yeah, screw you, this guy, that guy, this guy, that guy. So I give you a ton of credit, man. If you're out there, you're really trying to help people.
Hey, I do a lot. You know, the one thing I always tell everybody is if I'm telling you to do it, that means I'm doing it. If I like this guy over that guy, that's the guy I'm starting. If I have him in my league over that guy, I'll do it every time. Doesn't always work. We know that. None of us have crystal balls. You do the best you can with the knowledge you have. And, you know, we try to apply logic to a game that really doesn't have one once the ball is snapped.
Applying logic to an illogical situation.
That's exactly. Like I always tell everybody, you know, we play a game where the ball just doesn't bounce straight.
Yeah.
It's simple as that. The ball don't bounce straight. Neither does everything else that happens. And we're seeing that, you know, of course, lately with all these, you know, what a couple of weeks ago, Brandon Bolden comes out of nowhere, scores 2 touchdowns. What the hell? Where did he come from?
James Devlin.
Devlin.
Touchdown.
How about Jeremy Sprinkle? I love that name, Jeremy Sprinkle. I bet you his shoes are always wet.
Oh.
I don't know. It's crazy. You know, I love to answer questions, but I'm trying to do a show, and I'm trying to answer the questions because, hey, look, the people in the chat room, they're the ones that come to listen to you every freaking day. They're there all the time. Yep. So I want to help them out. I absolutely do. But there are times when I sit there and go, oh, my God. No more questions. Leave me alone.
Yeah. At some point, you probably think, like, haven't you learned enough from listening to me all year where you can make this choice yourself? It should be so obvious.
Yeah. No. The fun ones are when guys say, hey, here's 19 guys. Pick one.
Half of them are on the waiver wire. 2 guys are involved in a trade. And yeah, I know what you mean.
You know, it's like, or set my whole lineup for me. You know what? If you want me to set your whole lineup for you, go play at NFL.com and press the easy button.
Yeah. What I always like to tell people, when you're at this time of year, don't get mad at fantasy analysts. Don't get mad at Jim. Don't get mad at Matthew Berry. Don't get mad at Brad Evans. Just set a lineup, go to bed, enjoy the games. Don't watch the games then. Just go do yard work. Take your wife out to lunch or something like that. You can't control the outcome. So someone's just trying to give you their best educated guess. If it doesn't come through, don't hate tweet them. Like, you suck. You're an idiot. You told me to play Deshaun Hamilton and Cortland Sutton scored. Well, you know what? It's your team. Go with your gut. You're the guy who's ultimately at the end going to hoist the trophy and cash the check. So stop blaming fantasy analysts. Don't ask the question then if you're going to be like that. That's the way I think. That drives me crazy when people get pissed at, you know, a fantasy guy just trying to help them out, give them some advice.
The worst part is when they come back to you in the first quarter. Oh, you told me to start this guy. He hasn't done nothing yet.
Yeah, it's like, why didn't he return the opening kickoff for a touchdown? Like, he doesn't return kicks. Sorry.
Or you get the guy who's, you know, I get these guys every once in a while. Oh, you know, this guy is the right play. This guy is the right play. This guy's the right play. Just one guy. He keeps saying it over and over. And then if that guy does come through, see, I told you that was the right guy. You call one player, and I'm supposed to be happy with you call one player while I'm out there trying to call freaking hundreds. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate you pointing that out to me. You know, it definitely does have times where it's a thankless job. There's no doubt about it. But then you got guys like Armando and Miley and Mendo and Gregory and all these guys, John, that follow me over from the frenzy to here to listen to us. And, you know, I always want to help these guys because they're always in the frenzy. They're always nice about it. They always thank me. You know, those are the guys that I live to help. It's all those fringe guys that really sometimes just make me nuts.
Yeah, join the party, guys. Come follow me on Twitter at DrakeFantasy. I'd love to have you come follow me over there, and we'll have some fun bullshitting in the off season and talking about the NFL draft.
Well, tell them about your Tuesday night, podcast, because they need to know about this podcast, because not enough people know about what a great job you guys are doing over there.
Thank you. Yeah, I do a show on Tuesday nights with a buddy of mine from Texas named Dwayne McFarland, and Dwayne is essentially
that is sure a Texas name.
Yeah, Dwayne is essentially like, imagine like a Graham Barfield type guy, like these analytics guys. But he just hasn't blown up yet. That's Dwayne, okay? And I'm just kind of steering the ship. He's actually this year, he told me he's going to go to the Senior Bowl in Mobile, and he's going to do some scouting there. So I think we might actually do a little show around the Senior Bowl. So yeah, come and check us out, fightingchancefantasy.com/podcasts, called the Tuesday Night Hustle. All throughout the year, it's focused a lot on waivers and roster management. But at this point now, we're just talking straight football. We're talking X's and O's, why teams do stuff. He's the guy that watches a lot of film. I like to drink beer and kind of interject a little awful humor into it. But yeah, we'd love to have you guys come check us out. And it's only going to grow from here. And hopefully next year we'll have some more video elements and just blow the thing up and become the most annoying guys in fantasy.
I'm hoping that we take this podcast to a new level for next season as well. This was we got this one running late, and I don't really know all the technical aspects of making it nice and pretty like some of these guys do. But I will be learning some of that stuff in the off season, so we can make this a little better, maybe a little bit more professional looking. Because, well, heck, it's us. It's not going to be professional sounding. Hey, I just like to have too much fun for it to be professional sounding. You're going to get me raw no matter where you get me.
This being our final show of the year, I believe, I just want to say thank you so much for inviting me in to hang out with you and Tony, two guys I really respect in the industry. I've listened to you guys on all different platforms. I've been a guy who's been tweeting questions at you, trying to get a lineup choice, and to be sitting here 16 Wednesdays of the season to talk fantasy with you guys. It's really been a pleasure, and I appreciate you guys thinking enough of me to have you come join the show.
Hey, I thought you were a great addition right from that first show you did. I just knew I wanted to have you back. You bring a lot of good knowledge to it, and you're just really good at it. So I was glad that actually ended up happening. Hey, I love Tony to death, and he's gone now, so I can say this, but he can be a little off sometimes. So it's nice to have somebody that's a little bit more grounded with me at times. So that definitely works. I love working with Tony. Don't take that the wrong way in any way, shape, or form. He's the first guy who ever put me on a podcast. So him and I go way back, and I love working with him. But it's nice to have a nice calming influence there as well. So, Brian, you've been a great addition, and we definitely will be doing more of this next year. We're still trying to figure out what we're going to do with this podcast, folks, but I will absolutely let all of you know. I'm still trying to find out from FNTSY if the frenzy is going to continue. I do believe it is from the little bits of hints I'm getting now. So at least you'll have that. But we will definitely be figuring out something with this podcast going forward. It's just too much fun. We enjoy it, and I think you guys do too. So I think that's it for us, folks. Like we said, we definitely won't have a show next week. We will see after that. I will let you all know if there's going to be anything after that next week. I have too many family and friends here for Wednesday night, so I won't be able to do the show. But we do thank you for hanging with us. The guys that are still here, we love you guys for being here all year and listening to us. We definitely appreciate it. Please, if you can, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you can, any kind of rating if you listen in iTunes, any kind of thing like that helps us get it out there a little bit more. We would greatly appreciate, but we do appreciate you. So thank you very much. If I don't talk to you guys or we don't talk to you guys before, have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and good luck Week 16. Kick some butt. We are out, folks. Thank you.